So let's just take 1 minute of silence and we will then get started. So you can just close your eyes where you are, take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay, very good. All right, so what we're going to do today is have a look at the relationship between pain and uh, and yoga, and as well look at the difference between what is suffering and what is pain, and we'll see that suffering is a choice and pain is an inevitability in life, unfortunately. So I'll try to make the differentiation and the distinction, and then also how can we work with it and what can we do on the spiritual path. So this lecture is going to combine a few things. It's going to combine some psychological models, some yogic models, some therapeutic models, and then Sean's perspective on it all. And I'll try to make a differentiation when it's research and when it's my opinion. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a little test, each one of you. So I'd like you to just take a minute. There's 2 pages. So here's the first page, here's the second page. So I'll move through them slowly. If you can just run through the questions in your own time and then just mark where on the scale you would find yourself. Yeah. So just one number for each question. Don't spend too long on it. Just zip through it. So if I break things or spill things because of being careless, not paying attention, or thinking of something else, this is always happening to you, or you never break anything. That would be 6, or somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Okay. Next page. Once you're done, you can add up all of the scores and then divide it by 15. Fifteen questions, so divide it all by 15 and you'll get an average. So what do you think that we are measuring with this questionnaire? What would you say the commonality in it is?
Mindfulness and awareness.
Mindfulness and awareness, perfect.
Awareness.
So yeah, mindfulness is actually what it's specifically, but and we're going to try to understand what this term means in a second. So this really is a test that's used to qualitatively give a value to someone's mindfulness, and then you can do some kind of intervention in a study, like let's see if somebody meditates for 6 weeks and see if their score changes. So it's a qualitative study tool. It's not objective. It's very subjective. But the idea is that your self-reported values have been shown to be significant in terms of measuring change. So this is one of the tools that researchers use when looking at the effectiveness of different techniques and seeing, does that make a change in people's lives in terms of mindfulness? So this word is thrown around all the time. What are we talking about with mindfulness? What is that?
Be fully present in the experience.
Your ability to be fully present in the experience. Oops,
Yeah.
we lost it. Yeah. What else?
Being aware of being aware.
Being aware of being aware. This is good. So, yes. Anything else that you'd like to add? Okay, I would say it's this certain way of paying attention to the present moment. And I'm going to show you a quote by the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction. He's really the one that popularized this term mindfulness. His name is John Kabat-Zinn. Maybe you heard of it, MBSR. A lot of research has come out of this institute, and I highly recommend it. There's a lot of very good research in terms of anxiety, depression coming out of these studies. So John Kabat-Zinn, he was a Buddhist meditator, and he saw the value of meditation into the Western world, but he saw that there were certain resistances because of the idea that you mean something to do with religion or spirituality, or you had to have some kind of belief. So what he did was distill the main practices of Buddhism into something that's very palatable by Westerners, and has coined it with the term mindfulness. Yeah. And how he describes it is the act of deliberately paying attention in a particular way. This in particular way involves bringing the attention back to the present moment. So this is the first part, being present over and over again, and that might include your being present with your emotions, with your thoughts, with your actions, with your body, with your energetic body even. Yeah. So this particular way of being present, and he clarifies it even further by saying, and being non-judgmental, because you can be present with your feelings, but you may not want them to be there. Then you're being judgmental of the present moment, and you're actually creating an alternate reality than the one that is. There's a non-acceptance for how you're feeling, for example, and this wanting to change it actually is what removes us from the present moment. We're so uncomfortable here that we tend to find a way to get out of here, and that's often through our thoughts, through the remembrance of the past, or the anxiety and worries about the future. And any of you that have meditated probably have found that, okay, let's sit and be with our breath, and then after 5 minutes or 5 seconds, you might start to be somewhere else, right? Thinking about lunch or what you're going to do this afternoon, or all the other things that you could be doing with your time. So in this way, he makes this very, very important distinction about being non-judgmental. Surrendering to the present moment is kind of a yogic way of putting it, right? Surrendering means acceptance. You still act in the present moment, but you accept what is, yeah? And with that information, then you can make new choices. But there is a complete acceptance. Like now, we have accepted that we are communicating online. I would much prefer, I have preferences still, I would much prefer that I'm sitting in front of you and we're working together and we're going through this journey in the same place, right? But there's an acceptance that's happened, and if I'm here sitting being judgmental, I wish it wasn't so, I wish it wasn't so, I wish it wasn't so, then I'm not actually facing reality, and I'm living in some alternate reality that doesn't exist. This is the reality. I might have a preference, but I accept what is. So I like to make this distinction because sometimes we can get confused with preferences, and then we're just kind of non-existent beings. Yes, there's still a personality in all of these things on the path of spirituality. All the spiritual masters had personalities. They had preferences. They weren't just bland individuals, right? So being non-judgmental. And because we do not judge the content of the processes, we become free to observe without identifying with the contents of the thoughts. So this disidentification with the contents of the thoughts. It doesn't mean that you don't feel anything. Yeah. So when he talks about this not identifying, sometimes we use this kind of image of just watching the river pass by, and it's useful in some regard. But on my path, I feel that this metaphor can actually cause some confusion, because when you're watching the stream, there's this idea that you're not feeling anything, yeah? Because he talks about being buffeted by its eddies and currents, not being thrown this way and that way. That's important, that you're not overtaken by the river and thrown down the river, yeah? But that you're able to be there and feel everything and not be judgmental about it. You accept that I have strong emotional pain, and you are able to be there with it without wishing it to be gone. Whereas many people come on the yogic path thinking, I want to get rid of my feelings. I want to get rid of all of these difficult emotions. I want to be a nice, happy, yogi, smiley being, right? But this is a fake idea. This is a concept of what it means to be a yogi, because you're actually disconnecting to yourself. You're separating yourself, not integrating. It's not a process of pushing things away, but actually pulling everything in. Everything is me. There's another way of looking at it, which I think this is where the confusion comes, because there is a truth to it, that everything is not me. I'm not that. I'm not this. I'm not this. I'm not that. Right? And maybe you have already come across this on this training. Maybe they've talked to you about neti neti, not this, not that. When we're doing meditative practices, whatever arises, this is not who you are. Who are you? Being aware of the observer. The observer is who you are. You're not these things. But that means you can allow everything to flow and be as it is without the identification. The identification is these things move through you, and when you grab it, oh, I'm hungry, what am I going to eat? Maybe I can go down the road. I wonder if it's organic. Where do you think they're growing the vegetables here? Maybe they have to get it from China, but that's probably going to be impacted because of coronavirus. And then, well, I wonder if they've got their economy back, and is that working over there? Or maybe it was that, yeah. You see what happens? You got caught, and off you went with that energy that's moving. It's that you identify, you feel it, you don't try to even stop it. The tendency that we think we need to stop our mind is actually just putting a negative, we're trying to stop the flow of the river. Yeah? You are not your mind. That's all. Oh, the mind is doing this. This is interesting, cool, but I'm here. You allow it to be, you allow it to do, and eventually, just as the glass of muddy water starts to settle, the mind starts to settle as well, as long as we're not putting too much input in it. Yeah? That's why we do retreats and whatever else, to be able to distinguish between that muddiness and the clarity of mindfulness or presence itself. So this is basically just, I would hope it's something that maybe you already understood, and now I've just classified it a little bit. So mindfulness is just a term that's used for medical purposes, actually, to make it more palatable by the Western world. It's not a new invention. It's what all the yogis, all the Tibetans, all the Buddhists are teaching. It's the same essence, which is presence. Presence without judgment. Yeah? It's acceptance, presence, and surrender. I would put it like this. So it's not avoiding the present moment. It's embracing everything that is. It's not distraction. It's not creating new belief structures around or things that have happened, or avoiding difficult emotions, or when something comes up, you turn it into a pleasant memory. All of these things, this is not mindfulness. Yeah, cognitive therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is useful to a certain degree, but there is a restructuring of reality that maybe is still causing a disconnect. It can help you to get out of the hole, but actually there's a movement towards what is called acceptance therapy, which is embracing and accepting all of the traumas, all of the things that have happened in your life, and working on the pathway to full acceptance and actually eventually even gratitude for those things. Yeah, it's a different path, but I would say that this is kind of a uniting of East and West. It's not trying to get rid of things or blame or anything like this. It's just this movement towards presence with what is. So what we want to do is find where presence and pain meet, and how does this interaction affect our life. So pain, I think you maybe have understood already from the lectures that I've been giving, but pain is a very subjective thing. What does that mean? It's seen through your lens. It's your brain's ability to perceive what is happening in this moment. So what is pain? It's very useful. Thank God we have pain. What's its function? Why do we have pain? What's it there for when it's healthily activated?
Maybe a sign or alert, maybe the word.
What is it alerting and signaling?
That there is some sort of discomfort in the body, or that we
Yeah,
might
we
injure
could. I
ourselves.
wouldn't separate the term discomfort and pain. People's can label something discomfort that
Okay.
I've seen people come and say, oh, I've got a problem with my shoulder, can you help me? I said, sure, where's the pain? Oh, I don't have any pain. Okay, lift up your arm. Ugh. Okay, what's going on there? Oh, it's just uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. Okay, cool. So now, where is the discomfort? And I'll change my terminology. But that's often when people don't want to acknowledge that something's wrong, right? But so even that, discomfort, pain, what's it signaling in the body? What's it telling you? Is it telling you everything's good?
That something needs our attention.
Yeah, it's calling for our attention. There's a possibility of there being danger. Yeah, that's the use. And I like that, the way that you put it, is this call for attention. Yeah, and we're going to see emotional attention sometimes, physical attention. Yeah, our presence. Presence is always the cure. Always. Whatever is going on in this life, presence is the cure. Yeah, this is the only medicine. This is the only medicine that we actually really need. Yeah. So whether we're experiencing physical pain or emotional pain, to the brain it's the same thing. Yeah, they did some interesting research where they took somebody's thumb and they put it between two bits of metal and they started to squeeze the metal with increasing pressure. It's called a vice. Yeah, they started to squeeze it, and while they were doing that, they had somebody in a functional MRI measuring the brain activities. Where is the blood going in the brain? Yeah, so as they increased the pressure, the person would report more pain. I'm feeling 1 out of 10 pain, 5 out of 10 pain, 8 out of 10, please stop. Yeah, and as they experienced more pain, the area of the brain called the amygdala, part of the limbic system, started to register more activity. Yeah, so they could directly correlate an increase in pain with an increase in activity in the area of the amygdala. Yeah, this part of the brain that is responsible for our deeper emotions such as fear and pain perception and danger. Yeah, so that's the physical pain. Another set of research, they had a look at people doing this test, which is called the ball test, that basically they would get into groups of 3 and have an electronic simulation of them passing a ball amongst themselves. And for 2 out of 3 of the people, they allowed them to just pass the ball naturally. And for one of the people in the group, they told the other 2, don't pass them the ball. Yeah, exclude them from the exercise. And they put them in the same machine. They had a look at their activity in their brain, and they saw that a certain amount of people would experience some emotional distress, and that would register in the same area of the brain, the amygdala, and register as same as if it was physical pain. Yeah, but some people would register nothing. There would be no activity in their amygdala. And then they asked the people as they came out of the machine, out of the exercise, how was your experience? And obviously the people that experienced pain found it quite distressing. Why didn't they pass me the ball? You know, this was so bad. We all came here to just do this experiment in good nature, and then they left me out. And some people walked out and was like, yeah, that was cool. No worries. Give me my $5. You know, I've done my participation in the experiment, and I'm on my way. Now, I used to do this with my groups. And they'd been together, you know, we'd been together for 2 or 3 weeks. We're all friends. They know me, I know them. And I put them in groups and I recreated the experiment. And there would always be a few that got really upset, yeah? Like yesterday's example, right? I told you about if your boss wasn't happy with your work, how do people respond? So the situation is the same. And I even had a group where one girl left in the middle of it crying. Yeah, she didn't finish. It was 1 minute of passing a ball. And within 30 seconds, she stopped, put her stuff down and walked out of the room crying in tears, right? How do you get into a situation that's something like this where you know these people are your friends, Yeah, you know Sean is doing something weird. You know, I'm doing an experiment with you. I'm making you throw a ball in the middle of a lecture about pain, and you'll leave crying. What's going on? Why do some people have this registration of pain as much as breaking a finger? Yeah, as much as squeezing a finger between two bits of metal, their amygdala is going off to a real perception of pain. They are feeling pain. It's all in the mind. All of pain is in the mind. It's all a creation of your mind, specific neurons firing, and then your body, your brain deciding if this is dangerous or not. If it's dangerous, you will perceive pain. So why do some people respond in such a strong way and some people just shrug it off? Why do some people have this emotional resilience and some people do not? Any ideas?
Maybe it's like based on their like previous experiences that they have, like they have some sort of emotional pain carrying from previous trauma or stress in their
Yeah,
head.
most likely. What kind of pain and trauma would they have had in this example?
Probably like being abandoned or not being met with their needs.
Yeah, probably,
Left
or
out,
maybe being excluded. Yeah,
excluded, yeah.
excluded or abandoned, left out. Yeah, like why am I not being included in this? Let's play together, and then suddenly I'm not being played with. You don't love me. So there's certain interpretations that happen in that event that your brain then says this situation is really dangerous. It's really dangerous. It can hurt when people don't love me. Yeah, my survival is being threatened. So they're having a very small stimulus, an experiment. They know that they're getting paid to do this experiment. Yeah, they know that the facilitators are doing something, but still it's perceived to be dangerous. Just as a snake, you walk into a dark room and you think you see a snake curled up in the corner, to you that is going to be dangerous. Oh my God, this snake could be a cobra. I heard about people dying with a cobra. Your heart starts to race, your eyes light up, you start to sweat, you start to get really scared. You turn on the light and you see it's just a piece of rope. Yeah, the threat is real, but the reality of things is it has no consequence in you. And this is one of the yogic metaphors for what they call avidya, for this illusion that is life, that we believe these things to be real, and because of that belief of it to be real, we suffer. It's the identification with things that are not us, and that identification is the root of suffering. Yeah. But anyway, just to put that all on pause, I want to just come back to our story that when we have physical and emotional pain, they are perceived in the same area of the brain and they're as real as each other. It's much more difficult for us to understand emotional pain compared to physical pain. Yeah? And then when we go into chronic pain, it also gets very difficult because this system of alerting to danger gets thrown out of whack. It's no longer reporting the reality, but you are perceiving danger, whether that danger is real or not. But for all pain, even if someone gets stabbed in the arm, that pain is a creation of the mind. It's always a creation of the mind. Pain is always perceived here, and it's whether or not you think that this is dangerous. For example, a friend of mine was in the Israeli army, and they were in a skirmish, yeah, and they ended up being shot at, and then at one moment they had to retreat because it was there was too much bullets being fired upon them, and they escaped. And when they stopped, one of his friends said to him, "Your leg is bleeding. You know, have a look. What's going on? Your leg is bleeding." And he had a look, and he had been shot in the leg. There was some bits of bullet that had gone into his leg. He didn't feel any pain. Yeah, why? Because his brain said, this pain is not important. You need to survive. I'm going to turn off those pain signals and give you the release of the right hormones so that you can escape and flee and you can still use your leg. Yeah? And you see this with children. They run around and they fall and they don't even know what pain is really. Yeah? They're like, look around. Was anyone watching? No one was watching. And they get up and carry on. Right? But once they learn, oh, I should cry and then I'm going to get attention, then they start to cry the second they fall, right? You see it sometimes with kids. Depending on how the parents react to that, you're going to get a different response from the child, because the child is going to decide whether that's dangerous or not. And also, oh, I want more attention. I know how to get attention, right? How do I know that mum loves me even when I'm in pain, even when I've hurt myself? Okay, I'll make a big sound, and mum will come. Oh, are you okay? Everything good, right? So this relationship to pain is a very complicated one. It's not straightforward. It's not simply you break your arm and you feel this, yeah, or you have a disc injury and you end up like this. Many things go into this, and then when we start to talk about pain being there for a long time and emotional distress being there for a long time, we start to get to chronicity, yeah, chronic things such as depression, anxiety, stress, and chronic pain. We diagnose chronic pain as pain that's been there for 3 months or more. You hurt your back and it's been painful for 3 months. Now you're in chronic pain. Different things are happening in your nervous system according to the pain that you're perceiving. That maybe the injury is already better, but your perception of danger persists. And then the way that you need to be treated is very different to somebody that has just hurt their ankle temporarily and needs a course of physiotherapy for 6 weeks. Yeah? If it goes on for 3 months, many things change, and we're going to have a look at some of those things. What's the difference between depression and sadness? Well, there's a couple of differences, but what's one of the differences between depression and just grief, intense grief? Or just mild sadness? What's the difference? It's not about intensity, yeah? You can lose a loved one, your father can die, and you can feel intense grief.
Sadness would be more temporal. It wouldn't wouldn't be
It doesn't
chronic.
last as long.
Yeah, doesn't last as long, yeah.
Partly the differentiation is the time. Yeah, if your dad dies and you don't leave your house for a year, this is depression. Yeah, if you cry and cry and cry because your dad died this last month, and you feel feelings of longing and sadness, this is sadness. It's grief. It's different. Yeah, it's the persistence of these things that is more related to suffering. There must be some non-acceptance that this is the reality, right? For that to last for so long. Yeah, because thank God our body actually has the ability to forget. We probably wouldn't have that many children in the world if women didn't forget how painful childbirth was, right? It's actually shown that women actually forget the intensity of how painful that experience was because of the release of hormones and also the temporary nature of it, and knowing that it wasn't damaging and pain and bad for them. There's an acceptance for it, and the memory of the pain actually goes down. I'm not a mother, I don't know, this is just what I've read. Yeah, but this is the story that I've been told. So what we're going to do is have a look at the relationship between persistent pain, so chronic ongoing pain, whether it be physical or emotional. The study that I'm going to present is actually coming from a physical set of examples, and I'm going to make some extrapolation to emotional cases as well, showing you from my perspective it's the same. So we're looking at the relationship between persistent pain and self-directed, non-reactive awareness of present moment experience. That's a very technical way of saying mindfulness. What's the relationship between chronic pain and mindfulness, to make it clear? And this model is quite an old one. It was around in the 70s, and then it's been updated in the last 20 years or so, or 15 years, to include mindfulness. So I'm going to make the little presentation. This is a psychological model that is used for us to understand how do people remain in this pain cycle. Yeah. So we're going to use both the physical and emotional injury to demonstrate what I want to share with you, but understand that the theory is mainly coming about physical pain. Yeah. So let's say we have some kind of physical injury. I bend over, I pick something up, oh, I hurt my back, oh, there's intense pain. Now, it's useful to understand that there's a difference between injury and pain. They're not the same thing. For example, my friend that got shot, he got injured but didn't perceive pain. Yeah? So pain is the perception of danger that is done through an interpretation through your nervous system. Yeah. Whereas the injury is the damage of the tissue. You break the skin, it doesn't have the quality of pain. I might have a spinal cord injury and I won't feel anything below that level. You could stab me, you could burn me, I won't feel anything, right? So injury and pain are not the same thing, and it's good that we separate those things, because sometimes an injury won't have pain, and I'll give you a couple of examples again later emotionally. So I have my painful experience, I've damaged my disc, say, I've got a perception of pain. I know that, oh, okay, Sean, I remember Sean in one of his lectures said 90% of disc injuries are going to get better in 6 weeks. So I'm not scared. I know I've got back pain. I'm going to have to make some adjustments. I'm going to go see my therapist. I'll do my exercises. I'll get strong. And through that confrontation of your rehabilitation, you start to move and stretch, and you start to get more and more courage. And eventually after 6 weeks, you bend forward and you can pick things up, and you're no longer having this injury, and you've confronted it and you've recovered. Yeah? Because ultimately that's what we want to see in our body is recovery. We should find that with time and dedication, that most injuries can be resolved. Yeah? Make sense? That's what we would like to hope. We can look at the other side. We can look at an emotional situation. Say I have been married for 40 years and I come home and I see my wife in bed. I came home early from work and I see my wife in bed with another man. Now the injury, that could be an injury that leads to pain. The injury is for sure there. Oh, okay, I've lost my wife, she's been cheating on me, okay, my reality is going to need to be changed. That could or could not be painful. Maybe you're happy because, man, I was trying to figure out how to get out of this relationship and I had a prenup and I didn't know how to do it, but she's nullified the prenup, so all the money's mine and I'm out of here. And you're happy, right? Or it could be quite painful, like it's distressing. Okay, this woman I've spent 40 years creating a life with, she's cheated on me, but it's over, I accept it. I feel all of the discomfort that comes with it, all of the rejection and all of the other feelings, yeah, but I'm not scared about it because I know I'm worthy of love. Yeah, I confront it. After 1 year, I start dating again. I have a beautiful relationship. I don't take that memory of maybe she's going to cheat on me and, oh my God, can I really trust this person again? Yeah, I don't take any of that, and I confront my fears or my lack of fears, and I have a beautiful relationship, and I live happily ever after in inverted in quotations, right? So this idea that you can have these experiences and not carry them with you in a way that's going to impact your future relationships is also there. The possibility that they just can help you grow and understand yourself more and all of these things. And obviously maybe with some therapy, you confront it and you feel okay and you recover, right? Make sense? That's what we hope for in our lives, I would say. Generally, that life is still moving. Yeah? The record is not stuck. Let's have a look at what happens when the record gets stuck. This is what I would call suffering. Yeah, this circle on the left side, this is the circle of suffering. Yeah, pain you see is in the middle. We can make a choice to go that way. And how do we make the choice? The choice is that we make a decision that this pain is something that we don't want. Yeah, and it's bad and it shouldn't be there. And I want to get rid of it and I don't want to feel it. Yeah, I don't want to feel this discomfort. So, for example, I hurt my back, I bend over, it hurts, it's painful, and then I start to think, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to work. Am I ever going to be able to go to work again? I remember hearing about this guy and he got hooked on painkillers and he could never go to work. And if that happens to me, my wife is going to leave me, and how am I going to pay for the house? I don't have insurance, and my company is going to fire me, and then I'm not going to have any money to pay for anything. I'm going to end up having to move out, and then I won't probably even be able to afford my painkillers. And I heard that people then start getting hooked on heroin, and then I'll probably just start taking heroin, and then I'll be like living under the bridge taking heroin, and I'll probably just die. I'll probably just die alone under a bridge addicted to heroin. Right? Well, where did I go? I started to catastrophize. There's all of the fears and doubts and worries that are coming, the story attached to what you're feeling and then projected into the future of what might be. And we call that catastrophizing. There's the experience of pain, you're feeling those sensations, but you make a drama out of it. You dramatize of all the things that you think might go wrong and what the implication also of what this means because of what has happened in your past or what you've heard to be so. Yeah, you went on Google and you Googled, what does this mean? And you saw the worst stories possible, right? So you start to catastrophize. Now, what does that catastrophizing do to the pain straight away? Does it say that the pain is more dangerous or less dangerous? It's already showing that it's more dangerous, right? You're all going like this because that's how the brain will interpret it. This is really dangerous. It's not just a back injury. It means I'm going to lose everything and live under a bridge and die a heroin junkie, right? That's how dangerous it becomes, and it escalates it. And you become really scared. You become scared of feeling that sensation of pain because it has many implications on what the world means, what the world is, who you are, right? What's going to be about your safety and your freedom. All of those things can be impacted by just a little bit of pain in the back, right? Depending on your set of beliefs and ideas and things that you've been told, and all of those other things that formulate what flavor of catastrophizing you do. Yeah, it's all can be quite unique to us in our history. So we become scared, and because of that fear, we stop moving in a natural way. We start to think, if I move like I was moving, my back is going to be sore. And then because my back is going to be sore because I moved, then I'm going to go down this path. So there's projection into the future because of that fear, and so you avoid it. You stop bending forward. Yeah, you lose that ability to flex because you're scared of flexing. Yeah, and like we've been talking about, there's actual physical changes in the tissues that maybe start to take place, that actually your thoracolumbar fascia gets thickened, you lose the ability to control your core, the way that you breathe, the way that you move, all of that changes. And because of those changes, then you start to experience disuse, depression, disability. Yeah, you become weaker. And then because you're weaker, you're more likely to have experiences of pain. Yeah? You bend over, oh, my back. Oh my God, I'm going to be a heroin junkie. Yeah? And the more you go in this cycle, the faster it becomes. And just like when you learn how to drive a car, the less aware you become of your thoughts. Because it's inherent. It's inherent. You just feel danger, big danger. You just have the feeling of danger, which is the tip of the iceberg, the perception of pain, but you're already out and you're thinking about other things, and it's almost an implied belief that gets really cemented into your system, that this pain is dangerous. It's really dangerous, yeah? And you go and see the therapist and you like, I get some patients and they walk in and I say, okay, can you do some movements? Okay, bend forward. Bend to the side. No, can't move in any direction. And then I see them 5 minutes later picking up their keys like this, right? They just move. Why is it? They're not trying to lie to me, I hope not. They want my help. They want me to know it's really bad, it's really dangerous, and they really need help. That's what they're saying to me, right? I don't think anyone comes to the physio and lies to them, right? But pain is so subjective, yeah? And when you need to make it more clear that you're in pain, the pain will actually can get exaggerated, yeah, not consciously. But what are they saying? They're saying, I need help, yeah, and they probably learned at some point in their life that if people don't understand the pain that they're in, they need to show it more to get more attention because they didn't get that maybe when they're a child, for example. There's so many rationalities or reasons why the people perceive the pain in the way they do. Yeah, it doesn't help anybody to say this pain is all in your mind. Yeah, they need to be acknowledged for the feelings that they're feeling. Yeah, the sensations that they're feeling, and also know that there's a possibility of a way out. Understand their thing and try to remove the fear. That's how we work as physiotherapists, is that we go the other way, right? So this is the cycle. Okay, disuse, depression, disability, let's get you stronger. Let's get you moving. Let's get you moving in a healthy way so that you can then move through the world. And then you're not avoiding doing things anymore, so you're approaching it. and then we'll explain to you what's happened, what the events are that's led to this moment, and then from there you'll have less fear, and then you'll tend to catastrophize less because you'll project into the future less, and then hopefully you'll, even though you have a bit of pain here, you'll go, okay, there's nothing to be scared of, I'm getting better, and eventually I'm going to recover. So that's generally how physios will approach somebody with chronic pain. Yeah, there's a book called Explain Pain if you're interested in this. It's written by an Australian neurophysiologist, and this book, it said that just reading the book, if you have chronic pain, will reduce your perception of pain because it reduces your fear about what's happening. You understand the mechanisms of pain and why is this pain still here in a way that's digestible, and then also to help alleviate the fear. The fear is one of the main things that is driving this mechanism. It's driving this wheel. It's what gives it the power to go. Yeah. So the issue is not the pain experience. The issue is the story that you're attaching to the presence of pain. Can you experience the pain without making interpretations of what that means to the future of your life or your self-worth or who you are? You just experience it. It's not killing you. Okay? Can you just experience that pain and be present with it without a story? Yeah? So if we go back to our emotional example, we have the injury, wife cheats on me, it feels a lot of pain, and then I start to tell myself stories. I was married to her for 40 years. I knew I couldn't trust her. No women are trustworthy, and no one's actually ever going to love me. I'm probably going to live on my own. She's going to leave me, and then I'll be living on my own. I'm not going to be able to date anybody ever again. I'll just get a cat, so at least the cat will keep me company, and then who knows, maybe just one day I'll be on the toilet and I'll die, and then the cat will probably just be eating me like that story I heard on the news. And wait a second, off you go and you start to catastrophize, right? The same way as I started to try to meditate and I was off in China thinking about Corona, right? I was here just trying to think about my breath, and then off I'm in a small village in China, yeah? In the same way, the painful experience, you want to avoid feeling that. And we've learned very early that inside the mind, we don't feel those feelings of pain. It's worse. It's worse. It's one of the mechanisms that we learned how to survive. Because at least here, I don't have to deal with this. I'm thinking about all the things that could be in the future, but none of that actually exists. It's better to me thinking about these things that don't exist than actually dealing with what is here. That's what takes us away from the present moment. This is what John Kabat-Zinn was talking about, mindfulness, right? Being non-judgmental. Feeling those things and not judging them, allowing them to be. Yeah. So I catastrophize and I become really scared about having relationships because any woman that I date is going to cheat on me. It's happened 3 times and this was the worst. You know, everything, every relationship I have ends in the same way. Yeah. And because of that fear of that, you become very scared. You to get into an open, loving relationship, and you close your heart a little bit. And every relationship you go into, you're like, I'll just open a little bit, but you stay over there. I love you, but from here, right? You just stay there. Let's keep this safety. I want your attention. Keep loving me, but don't come too close, right? So you have avoidance hypervigilance, and because of that, you become weaker. You become weaker at the ability to open your heart and include the other into your life, into your love. Yeah, you become disabled in love, right? And because of that, your partner feels that lack. Yeah, they don't feel confident, and then eventually they need some more attention because you're not really giving it to them. You know, you're just taking, you're not giving. Yeah, and then eventually one day you come home from work and guess what? She's there with another lover, and you're like, fuck, I knew it, fucking knew it. No one's ever gonna love me. I fucking right? And off you go and you start telling yourself the story that you're going to be on the toilet and the cat's going to eat your face, right? It sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. But honestly, when you dig to the bottom of it, you'll see that girl that was crying, you know, with the passing of the ball, what projections was she having on what that meant to her? No one loves me. No one's ever going to include me. I just came here and I just wanted to do this with you guys, and then you left me out. No one loves me. I'm not worthy of love, right? And because of all of that, there's probably projections on the future of what that means about her happiness, her possibility for happiness, right? Those projections is danger. It's what stops us from living a life of presence. It robs life from us, this projections into the future. Yeah? But this is the role of suffering. Because if we remember, this has a purpose. What did we say the purpose was? The purpose was to pay attention. And it starts off small. There is some belief that you have that you're carrying. This is Sean, this is not the research. There is some belief that you're carrying, right? That is being projected and is wrong. It's incorrect. And life is saying, wake up, wake up. And it starts off subtle, right? And then it gets louder and louder and louder until you pay attention. Okay, there's something I'm not seeing, there's something I'm not willing to see. And life is saying, look at it, it's time. Let's wake up, right? You can start off slowly with a little shake, but eventually it's a bucket of water on the face. It's like, snap to it, yeah? And this is very difficult, but suffering has a place in our world. Unfortunately, that's how humans learn. We haven't figured out how to learn through joy, unfortunately. We have to suffer before we learn. Yeah? Things have to go really wrong before we're willing to change. And that's the function of this. It's just like a record that's stuck and the volume is just slowly getting turned up. Yeah? So you're in the flow of life if you're there on the right. And I would call that the flow of love, right? And then on the left, it's the choice of fear. So you can either choose, when you are experiencing something, you can either choose fear and closure or acceptance and love. It's a very simple choice. Simple in idea, difficult to do. Yeah? When you have difficult emotions, it's not easy to process them and feel them. I'm not saying I choose love every time. More than often I'm choosing, no, I don't want to feel that. Whoa, that hurts. No, I don't want to. And until I get fed up almost, then you'll make a change. Even knowing all of this, at least it's a map of knowing where you are. And to help you with your self-diagnosis of where you are in different aspects of your life, I've got some clues to know whether you're in the left or in the right, whether you're in this pain-fear cycle or whether you're in the flow of life and love. Yeah? So if you're experiencing the same thing over and over again, every boyfriend you date is the same man, every woman you date is the same woman, yeah, then you're there. You're having the same experience. Life is stuck. There's some belief that you have about what the feminine or the masculine is that is not based in reality. And until you learn to see that this is an illusion that has been created, most likely in your childhood, of what love looks like, you're not going to be able to move on with life. And it's not about whether the partner needs to change. Something inside of you can change. And then your perception of your partner will change. It's not about your partner, it's about you. But why are we attracted to the people that we're attracted to is because of these things that we carry, these beliefs and these patterns, yeah, that need healing. Relationships, when you start to look at it from this way, become school material. If we take away all the romanticism, it's school material in the school of life, of how do I grow? Can this person help me grow deeper than I could do so on my own? So if the patterns are the same, what I found really interesting is looking at the reasons why you broke up with your past relationships. Try to just summarize it in 1 or 2 sentences. What went wrong? Why did we break up? And start to look, is there a pattern here? Is it the same thing? Am I complaining about the same thing? Am I having the same fights? Am I seeing the same things I don't like in each partner? What's stuck? What parts are stuck? Yeah? So this is one tool that you can use, is repetition, looking at repetition in your life. The second one is blame. Yeah? Blame and shame I would put in a very similar category. Blame is, it's you, it's your fault, everything is wrong is because of you. That's a way of avoiding taking responsibility and owning your feelings and emotions. You blame somebody else for the way that you feel. And shame would just be turning that blame towards yourself. Yeah, and often we use these mechanisms as ways of avoiding the feelings that are underneath it. Yeah. For example, with the girl, it's an easy one. The girl throwing the ball. Sean, you're such an asshole. Why did you do that to us? How could you not let somebody pass the ball to me? And and those girls, they're such bitches. Why did they just leave me out like that? Yeah, blame. It's their fault. How could you do that to me? Right? But what is she doing? She's trying to avoid the feeling of not being loved. She has a feeling of not being loved. It's very uncomfortable. It's very painful. So let's blame everybody else in the world. Yeah. So blame and shame, it's the same thing. She's feeling shame, but she's expressing blame. Yeah. But they're so deeply intertwined and interconnected. They're like the same sides of different sides of the same coin. The other thing I just wanted to say, one of the things that might happen is not just with the patterns being the same, it might be the opposite thing. Now, let me explain. I'm going to use quite a hard example here, and just by numbers, probably 30% of women have had some kind of experience like this. But if somebody has had some kind of abuse in their childhood, right, their imagery of what love looks like, especially if it's from a loved one, their imagery of what love looks like is very heavily shaped by what you see and experience in the first 7-8 years of your life. Yeah, the new connections are still being made. There's plasticity. These things aren't hardwired, and it's changeable and malleable. And when especially these traumatic experiences, whether they happen once or big ones once or small ones over and over again, that shapes your perception of what love looks like. The relationship between your parents, whether they're there or not there, if one dies, or all of this shapes your beliefs. But let's take the more obvious one of abuse. Your perception of what a loving relationship will look like will be one that is involving abuse. And there will be a tendency, even if it's an unaware tendency, there can be a tendency to find either men that have got a deep aspect of anger inside of them, and even if they're smiling and nice and loving, that anger will come out. Yeah. Or you'll do the opposite, and you don't want anything to do with it. It was too painful, and I'm going to find a relationship that the guy is the sweetest, most loving, boring person that has no ideas, and every time you say something, it's like, whatever you like, dear. You'll find a very feminine man, right? Just to play with these extremes, yes? I'm making a cartoon almost out of it. Obviously, there's an infinite variety of subtleties, but you'll do one of the two. You'll find a very passionate relationship that has abusive tendencies, or you'll find a very bland, boring relationship that everything's okay. The sex is boring, everything's just kind of a little platonic, right? Because there's no movement of life energy, yeah? So you'll recreate the situation to try get healing. Yeah, you try to make him better this time. He's going to see the error of his ways, but he's going to be better, right? So you're projecting your childhood onto your current relationship, and even if he changes, you'll probably fall out of love with him. Fuck it. That's not what I was looking for. That doesn't fix the pain that I'm feeling. What you're looking to do is heal your childhood wounds in your current relationship, and even if there is change, it's not going to satisfy you because that's not the wound. That's just the tip of the iceberg. So just to go back to the patterns, you'll either recreate the same pattern or you'll flip-flop between the two, yeah? The opposite of it. It might come out this way as an attempt to just fix it, yeah? It's like desperation. I'll just try anything. I'll just date the opposite kind of person that I would ever date. That's what you're doing, is you're trying to just not have to deal with that wound anymore, yeah? So blame, shame, that's one. Patterns is two. The third one is small input and big response. So like in the example, someone just didn't pass her the ball and she spent half an hour crying. Small input, big response. Someone didn't wash the dishes. Oh my God, you don't love me. I'm never gonna, we've been married for 5 years. That's it, I'm out. Yeah? Fuck you. You didn't wash the dishes, right? And it can come to that. because this pressure is building and building and building, and what not washing the dishes means to that person is huge. It has so much behind it. It's not just the dishes being washed or not. There's something more. There's content there that hasn't been addressed, and the content that is showing is not washing the dishes. Whenever I'm doing therapy, the thing that sparks my attention is someone's like, yeah, there's like this silly little thing that happens and it really pisses me off. It probably doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, yes, okay, tell me more. Let's hear a bit more about it. And often it's like this. It gives you the platform to understand what the belief is that's driving the catastrophizing. Yeah, the belief is what's really important, and that's what for me is missing from this table is belief. There should be this painful experience, and why does this some people tend to go through there is because here there is probably some belief or trauma that exists that created the belief about how the world looks and what that pain means. That gives the filter to what that pain experience signifies. Yeah. So, for example, just a simple one is somebody I saw for back pain, they hurt their disc, and their doctor told them, you should not bend forward at all, and because if you bend forward, at some point your disc is going to herniate and you could be paralyzed. Imagine a doctor telling you that. Yeah? Imagine a doctor telling you that. You bend forward and you're going to be paralyzed. It's like you're walking around with a bomb in your spine that could explode at any second. What happens to your whole nervous system and all the musculature around there? You freeze, you stiffen up, you stop being able to breathe and move, and then you start to perceive pain. Yeah? Then the importance of that pain becomes blown up to such an extreme that any little sensation, your brain actually even then starts to interpret as being dangerous. We have a term that we sometimes use for this. It can occur. It's called allodynia, that people can actually start to, their nerve fibers change. The nerve fibers that are responsible for light touch, they actually start to transfer and be responsible for pain. Yeah, so that light touch can even feel like somebody's dragging knives along your skin. It's allodynia. Yeah, your nervous system has started to modify because of your belief patterns. Your belief patterns. This is really dangerous. No one can come near my knee, my ankle. Don't touch me. If anyone touches me, it could break. Then the nerve fibers themselves will actually be converted from one type of nerve fiber, which was responsible for pressure, to pain. Yeah? There's physical changes that occur because of the beliefs that you carry. You do directly modify your body through your belief system. It's not abstract. It's not some yogic way of thinking. It's measurable, quantifiable, direct. Yeah. And then guilt is the other one. Guilt is a really big guardian to stop you from looking any further. Yeah. Let me give you an example. I remember I was in a retreat and I was working very hard, and every time I would go to retreats, I would then, after a few days, I'd start thinking, oh, I should really call my mother and just say thank you. I'm so, like, she gave me so much. I'm so grateful, but I just don't express it. I don't call her enough. I'm going to call her, you know? That's guilt. It's a discomfort that I'm not a good enough son, right? And I should call, right? I should make it better. I should show her that I love her because I don't feel like I'm doing right. We all know that thou shalt love your mother and father, right? That means you're living by the 10 Commandments and you're a good child. What that stops though is any further inquisition. Why don't I call my parents more often? Why don't I express that? Yeah? It means I'm avoiding dealing with some difficult emotions, and it's much easier not to call them than actually have to call them and face that discomfort. Yeah? There's things that I haven't processed and haven't worked on that are still there and still difficult, and I feel guilty because there is something inside of me that's closed my heart to them because of pain that I experienced, because of traumas that I don't want to face, I don't want to deal with. I lock them up good and tight. I found mechanisms not to deal with it, and guilt is one of the biggest guardians in front of that treasure box. Yeah, if you're feeling guilt, it's this guardian there, this warrior. Nope, you don't want to know what's back here. I've been given a job to do, and that stops you from looking back here. So guilt is one of the biggest guardians for us to actually go towards this pain and understand what's actually underneath it. Yeah. So that's the story. Where does mindfulness then fit into this? Because it's said that mindfulness, the relationship, if we go back to the research, mindfulness has been shown to reduce the perception of pain, chronic pain, the intensity of it, and also guard us against the possibility of having chronic pain, physical pain. So where does mindfulness fit into this cycle? Where would you put it?
Probably somewhere after confrontation, maybe.
No, because on that side we're already good, right? So we don't we what I'm looking at is this circle over here. We're stuck, and my suggestion is that mindfulness can help us not be in this circle.
I would say basically directly after the painful experience, if you could bring some mindfulness to the experience.
Exactly. So if we would put mindfulness here, you can see it doesn't stop us from having pain. Yeah? Pain we need to accept. It's part of life. People die. We hurt ourselves. People betray us. All of those kind of things. Welcome to being a human. I don't know if you got the information guide when you came, but that's all part of being a human. And when we can experience that pain without judgment and awareness, then we will have less likelihood of going into this catastrophizing. So the goal is, when you feel some discomfort, is to sit with that discomfort and acknowledge the sensations and feelings that are there, whether it be emotional or physical, without this tendency to go off into story. You will notice the story. I'm here, I'm being with my pain, and it's really uncomfortable. Well, that feels like heartbreak, and it's here in my chest, and I can feel that pressure, and whatever it is, the sensation of the emotions or the physical pain, you allow it without contraction or avoidance, right? Pushing it away. We welcome it, we experience and we allow it, and we're present, and the thoughts will come, especially if this has been going on for a long time, especially if it's chronic, yeah? Because you'll go very quickly through this cycle without even being aware. The catastrophizing maybe will be below your consciousness. It'll be subconscious. Like I said, like when you're driving the car, you don't have to think about what gears you're changing to. You just know. It's automatic, yeah? It's below your level of consciousness because it's become a belief. I don't need to look at the sky and think, what color is the sky? The sky is blue. I don't think that the sky is blue. I just know the sky is blue. It's a belief. It's inherent, yeah? And we can't change our beliefs if we believe it to be so, just by wishing it to be different. Yeah, it's not about affirmations and things to change our beliefs. It's to acknowledge the beliefs, yeah? See where they come from and understand them, and then question, is this true? Is this true? Just that openness for that curiosity of what this present moment looks like, that's a step towards mindfulness and presence, as opposed to knowing it to be so and catastrophizing and telling a story. Yeah? So the more mindful we can be, the more we can be present with that pain, that discomfort. And I kind of try to quantify it a little bit. Let's say let's give it a number. You have a mindfulness of 100, right? And it's this big. This is how big your presence is. And let's say the pain of a mosquito is 10, right? I could be giving this lecture and get a mosquito bite and still be present. I acknowledge it, I feel it. It's not like I get rid of it, but I can feel it and I can carry on living my life. Yeah. If it was a B, which is maybe a painfulness of 80, yeah, maybe I've still got 20. Yeah, okay. I'm aware, but I'm still present. Yeah, but maybe if someone came with a sledgehammer and hit my arm, maybe that's 250, and my awareness is this big, I can't be still present then. That pain is bigger than my awareness, right? So that's all I can see. Yeah? All I can see is the danger of that. There's no space for anything else. There's no me and the pain anymore. There's no me and this little mosquito. It's just pain. It's occupied everything, yeah? And I'm talking about physical things, but it's the same with emotional danger, emotional pain. If there's no space between you and the emotion, there's a complete identification because the emotion is bigger than your awareness, your perception, yeah? And then it swallows you whole. So mindfulness is a practice. Mindfulness practices are there so that when the cyclone hits, when the storm hits, you have a reserve of space in which life can occur within that space. Yeah, if life is more grand, if there's more energy being pushed, that if the Shakti, let's put it in terms that we can understand, if the Shakti is greater than Shiva, then Shiva is knocked out, is knocked over. He's not going to be able to be present. The witness consciousness doesn't exist anymore. If you have such a fit of rage, you don't even, some people I know, they can have a fit of rage, they become a different person, and they don't even remember what happened. They punched the wall and they started screaming, and then afterwards they're like, what happened? My hand is really sore. And they won't even remember that they were so angry that they were punching a wall. Yeah? Because anger was much greater than their ability to be present, and they left the building, yeah, as a defense mechanism to not have to be witness to it. So this has many impacts in our life in various areas, and this is some of the examples. So this is basically the presentation I want to make. There is some findings, like I said, that if you tend to engage in automatic processing rather than self-regulating your own awareness, so you tend to be unconscious, and you have inflexible attention and lacking awareness of the present moment. So basically you're rating low in that mindfulness score, that you're not present, you don't remember where you put your shoes or your keys all the time, you don't remember people's names, you don't know how you got where you're going, these kind of things. You're more susceptible to dwelling on or ruminating about their pain and magnifying its threat status. That the sensations tend to become exaggerated. Yeah? You tend to go into chronic pain. So it was shown that low mindfulness seems to be a good place for distorted thinking about pain, so negative beliefs about what that pain means, and therefore have a tendency towards chronic pain, and also that it can actually help us to prevent, as a preventative tool, to not fall into these patterns of negative thinking. So on average, people scored about 3.86 on that mindfulness scale, and were shown to increase with meditative practices. And those meditative practices can allow you to be more present, therefore less likely to indulge in this negative thinking patterns, and therefore move into the health pathway. Yeah. So for me, this is basically East and West saying the same thing. The psychology model saying is presence is the answer, and that's what yoga says as well. Now is the only thing that we have. Be here, be now, as Ram Dass says, or practice the power of now from Eckhart Tolle, or what all the great masters are saying is that this is the only moment that actually exists. So let's live it. So this is my presentation in terms of the first half of this model, and I have another half of this lecture to go, but in this moment, does anyone have any questions for me? No? No questions? So what I would like you to do is just take a moment to try to find 3 things in your life that is going on right now that you could say you are sitting in that right-hand circle. Yeah? And how do you know? We've got the 4 ways of knowing. 1 is the pattern keeps repeating. 2, you're blaming somebody else or feeling ashamed about some situation. 3, small incident, big response. Or 4, you feel guilty. So I would like you to just find 3 things that fit one of those examples and just make a little note about it. This is just for you. You're not going to share it with me. And let's try to make this more practical knowledge rather than just theoretical. So try to become aware of the emotion associated with those 3 incidences. So you've got these 3 things that are happening in your life. Try to identify how you feel. Not what you think about this. How do you feel? You feel sad? You feel angry? How do you feel? Frustrated? Try not to say something like rejected, because that is what's happening. You think somebody's rejecting you, that's the story. But how do you feel about that rejection, for example? So if someone can argue about how you're feeling, then that's not a feeling. No one can argue that you feel sad. But someone can argue that you feel rejected because they could say, I'm not rejecting you, for example. And the final step is a little trickier, is trying to identify the belief that operates. What does this mean that this is happening? What does that mean about you? Yeah? What does this mean about reality about you? Yeah? So try to just, that no one's ever going to love me, or no one ever pays attention to me, or no one cares about how I feel. What is it that you feel this happening? What is giving rise to that feeling? What's the belief underlying it? When you feel this discomfort, I'm basically asking you to try to feel, how do you catastrophize about this? Because normally that's subconscious. Yeah? We're trying to bring to the consciousness, what is the negative thinking that you are using in this situation? The story associated with the feeling, the meaning. Okay, so you can continue this on in your own time. If you haven't finished, I would spend a little bit more time on it. And the last step that you can do is try to then identify, this is not for now, this will be for later, try to identify when you've been having these feelings before in your life, in what situation. And just try to note it. If it's a pattern, it's easier, but you might see that, wow, this has been going on since I was 3, me projecting this story out into the world. Yeah? So that's how we start to just make sense of our location. Yeah? Where am I? And then already that's going to give you some space. Okay? So this next part, this comes from a group of teachers, I would say, that many teachers are working in this manner. One of the teachers where I received this information is Prem Baba, but there's many different people, like Brandon Bays is working in this direction, Eva Parakis and the people that are doing path work, for example. But the map I got here that I'm going to share with you is coming from Prem Baba. So what he's suggesting is that when we come into this world as a baby, we are open, we're full of love, we're surrendered and present, right? You come in loving your parents, whether you would term it love or not is another story. But all of us, no matter how terrible or great our parents were, we all came in wanting unconditional, exclusive, continual love. Give me love, love me, or only me all the time, right? This is kind of a baby's natural instinct for survival, yeah? Okay, so this, I would say, this little heart is how we come into the world, yeah? Is loving and open, wanting exclusive, unconditional love, yeah? Inevitably, we are going to get hurt. This is an unrealistic expectation for the world to want exclusive, unconditional love, right? Nobody can be with you for 24/7. So because of that, we will experience feelings of unlove, which will be painful, yeah? Now, this can be small or big. It can be traumas, or it can be misunderstandings. It can be sexual abuse, for example, which is a form of unlove. It's clearly not conditional and unconditional love. Or it can be misinterpretations, like you see your brother eating a cookie and your mother had only had one left and she gave it to your brother, and you decided mum loves him more than me, and then that's it. No, mum never loves me, yeah? I'm not as lovable. Because before you were having 24 hours attention from your mother, and now it's split amongst the two, and then that manifests as her not caring as much about you as she did. So all the beliefs and all the patterns already start from that. Yeah? This idea that love is finite. And our time is finite on this planet, but love is infinite. Yeah. So we come in with the game is almost rigged. We come in with some misunderstandings and misbeliefs what it is to be a human. We're looking for divine qualities in a human existence, and it's not possible. This exclusive unconditional love is the relationship that we have with God, right? Or our divine self. Our parents are often manifestations of our beliefs of what the masculine and feminine look like. Yeah, the parents that you have, we can either say your beliefs of the masculine and feminine are determined by the parents that you have, whether it be two men or two women or whatever it is, but the roles of masculine and feminine are there, or one missing, for example, even, right? But that is the parents that you have. Whether that determines your beliefs of what masculine and feminine is, or whether you come in with those beliefs and come to heal those aspects, is two ways of looking at the same thing, right? But inevitably we are hurt. So we experience, let's see if this works, we experience some pain. Yeah? And then that pain, like I said, it's all relative. It's going to be different for each of us. Whoops. So, but we experience that discomfort, yeah, and it's painful, and it's something in between us and this feeling of love, right? We start to close down and we start to shut off, and that closing down and shutting off, we can also give it a name. We can call it numbness, because unfortunately the road to love and the road to pain are the same channels. We can't close ourselves to pain and expect to feel the fullness of love. Yeah, we know this. Anyone taking any antidepressants can attest to this. So because of this, we start to create this layer of not feeling, and this layer of not feeling separates us from the outside world. Yeah. Now, what we start to then do is then try to build some defense mechanisms so that we won't ever have to feel that pain again. Yeah, these tend to be our tendencies on how to deal with difficult situations. So help me out. What are some of the ways that you can avoid feeling pain? What are some of the things that you maybe do? I kind of joked about it a little bit when we gave that example of the boss. What are some of the things we can do when we don't want to feel pain?
Get angry.
Yeah, anger is a good one. So we start yelling at somebody. That can help us feel stronger and in control. right? And then we can blame others. There's like children that come off these generals. I would call them generals of defense, maybe lieutenants and colonels, right? Underneath that are in service of anger. Yeah. What are some of the other ones?
Dissociation.
Yeah, so like withdrawal, I would say that this dissociation is kind of numbness
Kind of the
itself.
same.
Yeah, it's kind of the result of it. How do you manage to dissociate? What does that look like in your actions? Let's talk about it this way. It's you're on the path, and you can see how that separation means you check out, right? But what are some of the practical ways in which you do it? The easy one, right? We eat when we feel shit, right? Some people don't eat when they feel shit, but that really is instilled in us very young, because if you've had children or you've seen anyone with kids, one of the first thing we learn, we cry, we get food, and then that makes us feel better. So that's a very deep connection, our relationship with food. But we can broaden that to the consumption of and the delving into our addictions. Through the delving into your addictions, we can just put that as broadly as gluttony, as a way to feel something other than that difficult emotion. Yeah. What else? So we have yelling at somebody when they piss you off and make you feel bad. It's when you feel strong, yeah. Or gluttony, you replace a difficult emotion with another sensation, or
So
yeah.
would you, for example, like alcohol consumption of alcohol, like
Yeah.
this kind of.
Yeah, I would put most of our addictions, but whether it be food or alcohol or drugs,
Okay.
or internet, into gluttony. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going to see it's also about the energy and the what gives rise to that behavior, which is going to be important. What else? What do you do when you feel bad?
Cry.
Cry. Sadness, beautifully enough, I would say sadness is pain, as genuine. But if it becomes self-pity, then that gets complicated, because that crying, this is a non-acceptance with the sensation of the feeling. Yeah, it's actually victimization of yourself and self-pity. We're going to talk about the victim in a second, but I'm just going to move this along, and I would say that this could fall into the category of lies. Self-delusion can be a mechanism that you use to not feel the difficulty or pain of the situation. So I'm just going to kind of make it fit some categories just so that we can keep moving. But lie is a good way of us avoiding it, whether you're actually genuinely lying to yourself so that you don't have to feel it, or lying to others so that they don't look at you in a way that you don't want to be looked at and made to feel bad. Yeah? What else?
Maybe like avoidance, so keeping really busy, for example.
Those are two different things that I can use. One is fear. So we just talked about fear. We don't want to face something, and we avoid it because it's too painful. And laziness, which I would put as another one. If I don't do anything, then I don't have to expose myself to possibly getting let down or failing or being not loved. Or I can become overactive, and I can be doing so many things except the things that I need to be doing, as an attempt to not to have to sit there and actually feel what's really there. Yeah. So overactivity or underactivity are flip sides of the coin of this laziness or sloth. You might start to recognize some of these terms now. Does anyone recognize some of this?
Is it
What
the
about
10 Commandments?
close? It's something biblical. It's the seven deadly sins, right?
So deadly sins, yes.
Yeah, you're on the path, I could see. So it's the 7 deadly sins plus 2. So what about retail therapy? Yeah, you go shopping, you go buy stuff, that makes you feel better. We could put that as greed, the need to consume and collect to make us feel like we have something because we didn't have something. I heard a very interesting thing on YouTube. There's this like rapper that he has one of the biggest sneaker collections on the planet. Millions and millions of dollars. Basically, all the money he makes from music is he goes and he buys shoes. And in an interview, someone asked him, why you got this obsession with buying shoes? And he was self-aware enough to realize, he's told a story that when he was young, he remembered going to school and he had just received the shoes from his older brother because he never got his own clothes, and he had to tape them up with black tape to hold the shoes together because they were falling apart, and he got teased all day, all week, all month, and then he got known to be that kid with the shitty shoes, and he got given a name that resembled that, so he was always reminded that he doesn't have, yeah? And so he made a determination that he's going to just buy shoes. He's never going to be the one that doesn't have the latest and best shoe. His whole life then became motivated about having shoes. And you could see he's in this moment of realization that I'm past that, but the addiction will still be there. Yeah, and he's in the moving out of that pain and accepting it. He's acknowledged it. He's starting to be able to feel it and disidentify with it, but it's still running his life as a way to never ever have to feel that pain that he felt. Yeah, you can see how greed can directly correlate with a way of not having to deal with pain. Right? It's a guardian. It's a guardian of pain. These are like the evil generals, you could say. My teacher likened it, the Lord of the Rings. I don't know if this is the right audience, but the 9 wraiths, the 9 black shadows, yeah, they come and they attack Frodo when he puts the ring on, which is actually the ring of pride. Yeah, his true self disappears. Yeah, who he is ceases to exist, and he becomes visible to the lower tendencies, which is these generals that can then come and attack him. Yeah, but in giving away the control of this vehicle to these guardians, right, they become the driver of the ship. But because they're the driver, you don't have to feel those things anymore. So you give up control of who you are. Who you are is love. Yes. But because that love was painful, you started to shut yourself off, you became numb and isolated, and you gave control of that vehicle over to these protectors, which they do the job. They helped you survive. Yeah? That boy that didn't have now has, and now he doesn't have to feel that pain anymore that he wasn't capable of dealing with at such a young age, right? So it distanced himself from the pain, but in distancing, you give up control. And this life is no longer yours. Your life is now at service of greed. Yes. You're not driving your ship anymore. 3, 6, 7. So 2 more. Lust. Yes. The use of sexual energy for power. Yeah. When you feel lonely, maybe you can use your sexual energy, for example, in order to get some energy, whether it be healthy. This wouldn't be lust, yeah, but healthy sexual energy that's not about control and power over the other. But when it's about control and power over the other to get what you want, this is the manipulation of lust. And finally, envy, yeah, the use of your words to pull the other down, that you feel that there's somebody better than you and that hurts, so you want to pull them down. When you compare yourself to others, you will always be left wanting, or you'll either be here in pride, or here in envy, or there in pride. Yeah, and sometimes these generals can go to war together. They can act together. So they will not only act in isolation, but we will tend to use 1 or 2 of those as our main mechanisms of defense. So that's the next exercise I want you to do, is try to identify which 1 or 2 is your main general. Yeah, which is the one that protects you from this dreaded outside world full of feelings and emotions. Okay, So there's a final layer, because none of us really want to be seen like this. You don't want to be seen as a liar or an angry person or an envious person, right? So what do? We create a mask on the outside to pretend who we are. We show this is who we want, this is who we believe we need to be loved. Because when we were who we were, when we showed ourselves to be this, we were not loved. So I need to be something else. So telling your child or your parents telling you that, you know, you need to be more like this, or you need to be more like this, or don't wear this, and you should wear things like this. These are forms of unconditional love, that you're shaping the child to be how you believe they should be. And it's coming from a kind of love, but it's not unconditional love. It's if it's coming from fear because you don't want them to not have enough when they get older, and you're scared that they're not going to be able to take care of themselves, or people are not going to like them if they really are like this, then all of these things are going to feed into us of not actually accepting ourselves as we are, and having an idea that this is who I should be to be loved, to be lovable. And that's the mask that we present. Yeah, the final outer layer of what we show the world is this mask. So what are some examples of some masks that we wear? Any ideas? What are some of the ways in which people pretend to be something, or some way? They
They're
dedicate their
always
life.
that they're
Uh-huh.
always positive.
Positive, yeah, like the happy one.
Yeah.
I have a friend that no matter how she's feeling, she can be telling you about how her dog just died, and she can be smiling. My dog just died. Yeah, it was really difficult. There's a big smile on her face, right? Because she knows that people don't like sad people. You need to be happy. Yeah? No one likes a sad person. I can't show my sad emotions to somebody, then they won't love me anymore. So there's a desperate need to be happy all the time. Yeah? Always seeking happiness, and not acknowledging the really the way that they're feeling. What else? It's a good one. What about yoga teachers? What do they tend to be? What do we not want to pretend to be? You know, like spiritual ones. I'm so spiritual. I'm detached from everything. Nothing but bothers me. Yes. They're wearing 25 malas. Yeah. Always dressed in white. Yeah. Got tattoos all over their body. I'm so spiritual. You know, at the party they're doing Nadi Shadana. You know, sitting in the corner, showing everybody that they know how to do pranayama. Right. So the spiritual one, we need to be careful of this one. What else?
Confidence.
Yeah, confident one. I can take care of myself. I don't need any help from anybody, or the helper, right? You're always fixing everybody else and always there for everybody else, so you don't have to actually look at any of your stuff. And actually, you're desperate for somebody to be there for you, but you just manifest in this way because that's what you actually want. Yeah. What else?
Like super shy, kind of introverted, very
Yeah,
quiet.
very good. The shy one, never putting yourself out there, but actually you do want attention. And if you feel safe and comfortable, you can come out of your shell maybe. Yeah. Or it can even be used as a mechanism to try to get attention from other people. We can use these things in many ways. Yeah. The sexy one, right? Using our sexuality to get attention, and then maybe even be shocked that we get that attention when that's what we are putting out there, or really lap it up and love it, right? There's the biggest one, I would say, and this is the one that we are all guilty of, and this is apparent when we are blaming others for what's happening to us in our life. And this is a very difficult one to talk about. Whenever we're blaming others for the occurrences in our life, there's a lack of self-responsibility. Now, when I talk about the victim, we need to just try to understand that this is not about victim blaming. Yeah, it's not removing responsibility of the aggressor for their part in whatever the relationship is, yeah? But it's about accepting responsibility for the choices that you make and the way that you perceive yourself in the world, that you get something from being the victim. There is something that you get. You've all got the friend that maybe is a perfect example of this, that just sucks energy all the time because they're just complaining about everything in the world. Nothing that happens to them is because of their actions. It's always somebody else that did something, and all they do when you speak to them is they just complain about everybody else and everything else. There's no sense of responsibility. This kind of can highlight for us the extreme of it, but on a subtle level, we all have some aspect of the victim inside of us, yeah? And it's just a matter of how much. But ultimately, this victim is a child of lies. Yeah, it's a product of lie, yeah? Of that you are not all powerful internally inside of yourself. We are nothing out there, but we are all powerful in here, yeah? And it's this conflict that we have within us, that we're nothing and everything at the same time. That is one of the most difficult dilemmas that we have to deal with as humans. So there's many different masks that we can wear, and that's the last step on this exercise. I would like you to try identify for yourself, who do you believe you need to be loved? What is the thing that you show to everybody? You know, you're always there and you can help everybody, and I can take care of you, and what do you need? I can, you know, or the martyr, you know, it doesn't matter what I need, it's what do you need? How can I help you? I'll give up everything to be there for you, right? What is it? What is your mechanism? The nice one? Yeah? Yes, whatever you need, I can help you. Yes. Always being the very good one, you know. The perfect one, you know, so scared to put a step wrong in case you're not as perfect as you imagine you need to be. So, to be clear, out here we are very detached from who we are. It's a pretending, right? All of these masks. It's who we think we should be, as opposed to who we are. Who we are is back here. And there's many layers that we need to go through. If you don't know who you are, it's because you've identified from this. If you start to look at all the reasonings in why you've made the choices to be who you are, and you see at the center of them was pain, right? I was told that I was stupid when I was a young boy, and my dad would always say, "You're so stupid, why can't you get anything right?" And then I became obsessed with studying and becoming a professor, and all of that originated because you just didn't want to feel stupidity, the feeling of stupidity, yeah? And it just takes somebody just to whisper, "You idiot," and you'll blow up. I'm not an idiot, I'm a professor, I did this and I studied this, and yeah? It's because of it's not based in reality. It's fragile, it's flimsy. It doesn't take much to topple the house of cards, so to speak, yeah? When you identify with this outer layer, yeah? Then what happens is that, say you get in a relationship and you spend more time with somebody, this takes a lot of energy to uphold. It takes energy to pretend, right? It's not natural. It's not coming from the depth of your being and being expressed naturally. So then you go into a relationship where you spend time with your family, and they have more power over you because you're more susceptible to pain because you care more, right? And so your need to protect yourself tends to be bigger, and it takes more energy to pretend, so these things start to show up. This is still not your true self. Yes, these are your protection mechanisms to protect you from this pain. Yeah, and these start to show up, and this is why I say relationships in your family are very good school material. They know just the spot to poke, yeah, to get the reaction out of you. And that reaction is your sign that something's up. So then you'll revert to one of these, and it might be more obvious. You often don't talk to your loved ones in the same way you talk to strangers, right? So anger might come up more with your loved one, right? But they have more possibility to hurt you. So you need to defend more. Yeah, you can't pretend anymore to be the nice one, because they pierce through that mask. They see something deeper inside of you than just this pretending. They know that this is not real, right? And so we are a bit more exposed, and our generals come to the battle. If you manage to sit there and be present with the anger, you might hit this layer of numbness or indifference. It can be a thick layer, and it can be sometimes very difficult to move through. Yeah. At some point, what might reveal itself is the initial pain, the actual pain of this unlove, the wounds. Yeah. Whether they be triggered by the external happenings that are happening now, but if you're still carrying your wounds from 30, 40 years ago, they'll be exposed, and you might start to see connections between how you're feeling now and how you felt when you were 5. Yeah, that wound is there, it's still alive, it's still operating, it's still making your decisions. And then if you choose to lock it down again, you'll just shut it back down because it was too difficult. You don't have enough presence or mindfulness to be aware of that pain. You get swallowed, shut the door, don't deal with it. I know where not to go. I don't want to go there because that's too painful. I'll just lock that door, swallow the key, and never go back, right? Or if you're able to sit there with that pain, and it can transform into gratitude and ultimately love. To get to love, you have to unfortunately go through this pain. This closure, this internal closure that you've created, the only way is by a willingness to be there and be present, not to wish it to be gone, to transform it, to change it, to do anything with it, just pure presence and be there with it. And it's much easier said than done. But at least if you have a map, you can start to identify and understand why are these emotions arising, and you can start to map it out. Oh, I'm feeling really angry. Why am I so angry? What am I protecting myself about? And then the anger shifts from me going, you make me angry, to why am I so angry in this situation? For me, why does this touch me in such a way? As opposed to, this is the only way I can feel in this moment. This is justified anger. Who wouldn't be angry? We've gone down the slope over and over again, and there's no other option, and this is how I have to respond. This means you're trapped and you're not living a conscious life. You're living a life that's determined and is just an enacting of your karma that has been hardwired in your nervous system. So this is pulling together all of the things that we've been talking about along the way. Yeah. So to summarize, pain is inevitable as part of life. It is the same doorway, unfortunately, that love arrives through. And if we try to shut ourselves off to pain, and we judge it and try to distance ourselves from it, we're going to lock love up as well. It's impossible not to. So when you arrive at deep sadness, you're in treasure. There's gold there. If you can be there and sit with it and not feel self-pity about being there. Can you see the difference? Self-pity as opposed to just it hurts that they're gone, right? It's different. Complaining is not this pain. Yeah, it's lies, it's fear. Yeah, it could be many things. So this is it. This is the map that I think is very useful for us to understand. And just because you have the map doesn't mean that you are walking the path. You can have the map and nope, I'm stubborn, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, it's possible. So don't let just understanding this be an impediment on your path, but actually a tool that you can use to understand your tendencies, your protections, the pathways that have been inbuilt in terms of your defense mechanisms, and then understand how can I move through that through curiosity and presence. That's the only, like I said, that's the only treatment that we need. So that's it. that's all I have to say. I think my timing's pretty good. We have 4 more minutes, so if you want to ask me any questions or if you have any reflections, I'm happy to hear them.
Yeah, that was brilliant, Sean. I really appreciate the way you described it. It was really so easy to kind of understand
Thank you.
the whole way you put it. Thank you.
Yeah, then I just hope that I'm not just my fear in giving this is sometimes that it just remains in the realm of understanding. So it's really important to try to do those exercises, for example, that I gave you, and then that